Hi there everyone, welcome back up to Weir Yard in the Loft, and today I'm going to show you a how-to video, and it's how to add a pond to an existing model railway. And there's an area of Weir Yard which has got a bit of a hollow, which I've been looking forward to doing something with for a while, and the Deluxe Materials solid water has given me an opportunity to be able to make some kind of a pond. And I think that it's something I want to share with you, because I think you'll agree it's a good way of filling out some space scenically on your model railway as well. So let's get on with it. So I've got here all the materials that I'm planning on using. So homing in first on the main feature, the solid water from Deluxe Materials. So used that very successfully before, so looking forward to using that again, and we'll see what kind of an effect we can get. And over here from TP, I thought that these were a German or Austrian company, but it turns out that they're a UK importer, but it's not clear where these are from originally. But they do quite a range of different plants. I got these from Hatton's, £6.50 the pack cost, but you can get all sorts: tomato plants, pumpkins, bulrushes like these, even vines, all sorts of products, and they all look pretty good, so I'm looking forward to trying out this product. Never heard of this manufacturer before, but I'm sure that I'll be using them again. We've also got here, I'm thinking of using some of this just to give a suggestion of all sorts of stuff at the bottom of the pond, and this is from Pico. It's PS400 Woodland ground cover. I've used this on other projects and it's actually really good. It actually does appear to be real plant matter. I'm sure it's been sterilized to stop mold and stuff growing on it, but I plan to use a little bit of that around the base of the bulrushes just to give a kind of muddy textured bottom to the pond. And what else have we got? Well, there's a Woodland Scenic shaker there with some Woodland Scenic material. I plan on using that, maybe try and suspend it within the solid water to give a suggestion of weeds within the water, sort of like a duckweed effect. And then we've got the Rocket Card Glue. Whilst it's a Deluxe Materials product, it says it's for card, but if you also read the small print, bonds card, wood and plastic, so equally suitable for sticking the bulrushes in. And then there's a little tin of Humbrol enamel. It's number 62, and the idea for this is perhaps to add a little bit to the solid water just to produce a tint, otherwise it does dry absolutely clear. So I'm going to be experimenting with that. So that's the materials that I'm planning on using, and all of these are readily available. What I've got here is, you probably recognise this from some of the previous videos, some of the landscape over at the bottom of the yard. So we've got up there the Hornby scale Scenic trees that I brought you in a previous video. We've got the bridge, but more importantly we've got the ground here. I described this as being a lot like Cumbrian fells, but what struck me after my success with the solid water elsewhere on the layout is I'd quite like to make a pond. So we've got a depression here. I'm not sure how well the depression itself actually shows up on the video, but believe me, this area here is like a bowl within the scenery, and we've already got, there's like bits of rocks and stuff in there, and I thought actually that's just screaming out to become a bit more of a feature. So I'm going to be using the Deluxe Materials solid water to create a pond area. I'm not going to do the pond too deep. I really just want more a marshy area than anything else, and hopefully the solid water won't drain through the scenery. What this actually is I've got scrap jab light underneath here, which is like a high density polystyrene insulation, then PVA covered J cloth, and then over the top of that is a layer of filler which created the base layer over which the actual scenery was done. So hopefully that is going to be watertight enough that the water won't drain away. So I'm going to crack on now. Just trying to squeeze these out here. It's quite a slippery foam that they're mounted to. I'm just really struggling to get these out. There we go. They're like a kind of a wire And actually they're a little bit more durable than you might wonder. So they're going to withstand a few knocks on the layout. So yeah, they do look to be a pretty good product. Now the other thing which I need to get straight on in is some of this Pico Scene PS400 Woodland ground cover. I've used this around trees on other layouts and it's pretty good. But I'm going to try and use some of this just to form a little bit of a base in the water. So I'm going to get on and open up this packet. I don't want a lot, but I think a little bit will go a long way. And I'm going to be using super glue because I want this to set pretty quickly. So as I said before, the rocket car glue is also good for wood and plastic. So it's pretty much like a super glue. So I'm going to go ahead and use this. It's what I've got. If you've got other glues, they're also pretty good to use. And you can even use PVA if you're prepared to leave it long enough to set. But I'm in a hurry, so I am the queen of speed modelling. So I'm going to get straight in here. So a lot of this is about experimentation. There's no firm and fast way of doing anything really. It's about experimenting and seeing what works best for you. So a lot of this, it's a learning process for me about, you know, what you can and can't do. And it's very flexible. If you make a mistake, don't worry about it. You can keep working at it and you know, things come good in the end. So I'm going to put down a load of this super glue. And it's a weird colour that. It's like a kind of milky colour. But I'm going to then sprinkle into that some of this material. And you can see that it's almost like twigs and stuff. So I'm going to cover into that. And because that's super glue, I'm not really wanting to stick my fingers into it. So I'm going to get something like a screwdriver. So I've just got a set of jeweler's screwdrivers here. And it doesn't really matter which one I pick. So I'm going to take the big flathead screwdriver and just push this down into the super glue. It's an interesting effect there. I think what it is with this is that over time the pack settles. What I want is the kind of dusty stuff that's at the bottom. So let's see if we can get some of that out. Yeah, some more dusty stuff. Going to sprinkle that in. And it's starting to work out actually. I'm going to have another patch over here. So I'm going to put some of this super glue down. And then I'm going to try and get some of the dusty stuff from the bottom of the bag. And just sprinkle that in. That's quite dusty there. Let's get some more of the sticks. Let's just get all that in. Try not to get your fingers in too much. It is super glue after all, despite the rather strange colour. And that just hopefully stops it from floating away. You don't want it to float into the solid water. Right. What I next want to do is I want to put in some of these bulrushes. So they come on this foam. You just pluck them out. They do hold together there. So I need a pair of tweezers now, just to be able to hold these. So I've got a pair here. Just to hold the tweezers, and then I'm going to, oops, not used to using tweezers. These have got quite a spring to them. And let's see, this does seem a little bit watery, but let's see how it goes. We might have to switch up to a different glue, yeah. It's supposedly instant hold, but this glue, it's something I've always said about deluxe materials. A lot of their products do seem to be a solution looking for a problem. And yeah, it's sort of working. But I'd prefer more of an instant, like if you go for a gel super glue, that might work a bit better. Actually, this might work better without the tweezers to get in the way. These are big enough to hold by hand. So I'm going to just put all these in, and we have to put these in first, otherwise they're going to sit on top of the solid water, and we don't really want that. So I'm just going to stick these in, try and get them through that mass there, and just keep putting them probably in a cluster. If you look at a real pond, what you tend to find is that the bulrushes are around the shallower part, and then towards the middle of the ponds you don't get so many, so these tend to be clustered. It always pays to look at the real world and make notes in your head about how real vegetation sits. So just as a final thing before I start putting the resin in, I've got a little bit of sand, the same stuff that we've been using for the rest of the scenery and the ballast, and I'm just sprinkling a very small amount in to add a sandy texture to what will become the base of the pond. So we've reached the point now where I've got the base of the pond in over that depression that I had in the scenery. Of course, the grass layer that I'd already put in adds something to the base of that pond, but we've got those sort of sticks and brown gunk glued to the bottom, got the bulrushes in, and that glue has had time to set, so now we're on to the solid water. And I think actually with all of that stuff I've put in, I'm actually going to avoid tinting the water. Certainly I'll put a layer in clear and see how that goes. If you need to add a tint, you can put a second layer over the top. It doesn't even have to be all that thick, but you can add a tint to that. But it's easier to add the tint later than it is to try and take it out if you put too much in. So I think that's probably the sensible way. So I've got my solid water here, and I'm going to mix up a small amount to be able to carefully pour in, and let's see how this goes. So I've thoroughly mixed the resin with the hardener, and that's really important. As I said in the last video, if you don't get it thoroughly mixed, then you'll find that there'll be some areas of your water that just don't set properly and remain a kind of sticky mess. So really worked hard to just stir that up for 5 to 10 minutes, just keeping it stirring. It does take a long time to go off, so you've got plenty of time to work with this. There is no rush whatsoever. Also, the kit comes with some of these small syringes. Now, I didn't use this when I did the culverted stream, but I'm going to be using this for the pond because I want to be able to get some of this resin in around the bulrushes without running the risk of the resin itself just washing stuff away. So these allow very accurate placement of the resin. It takes a bit more time, but the end results should be worth it. So first up, I'm just going to use this to get some of the resin in, just on the bottom there, around these bulrushes, just getting it in. These syringes don't hold an awful lot, and just be really careful that you don't drip any of this stuff around the rest of your model. That's something that'd be very easy to do. So that's going in all right. I'm going to try actually pouring in a little bit of this. Just let that find its level. So one of the things that I can see might be an issue here is I may have put ever so slightly too much of this resin in. So I'm going to use the syringe to just try and remove a little bit of the excess, because what we don't want is that flowing down to where the track is. So I'm just going to syringe out just a little bit of this. Don't feel obliged to use all of the resin that you've mixed up, because otherwise you're going to potentially cause yourself some difficulty. So just syringing out quite a bit of this actually. It's very easy to slightly over put it in. It will find its own level. So I'm just going to syringe it down at that. I'm going to see how that works out, and then we can always come back to it, and if necessary I can put a little bit more of this resin back in. Something to note is that the Woodland Scenic scatter that I put in from the shaker, which is actually the stuff that they sell for doing bushes, has worked exceptionally well. It's soaked into the resin and looks like sort of murky, horrible pond weed, which is perfect. And it's also helped stop the resin from kind of soaking up through the landscape and gives you a much more defined edge to the pond. So top tip from me. Well, I hope that's been really informative to you. If you look down below, we've got some links so you can find these products to use yourself. And also, don't forget you can support this channel on Patreon, and that's a really big help to let us make the videos that you want us to. But it's been really good having your company. Until next time, you take really good care of yourself. Bye for now. Today's video has been brought to you in part thanks to the generous donation of my fans on Patreon. And an extra special huge thanks goes out to Anthony Kidson, Michael Churchwood, Bob Threeton, Alec Ralph, Anthony Hunt, William Wade, Wayne Johns, Offshore Allen, and oorail.co.uk. If you'd like to help support the show, head on over to patreon.com/Jennifer Kirk. Thank you. Today's video has been brought to you by my books, Bringing Home the Stars, Twinkle Little Star, and also you can get the complete comic collections of All Over the House, Books 1, Books 2, and also the wacky zany Life of Knob T Mouse. Thanks, and catch you later.